Okay, so number one, it's saying find the equation of a circle. Well, if it's asking to find the equation of a circle, then what should I be looking at? The formula for the equation of a circle. What is it? X minus h squared. Okay, so equation of a circle. Okay, so it'll be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equal r squared. So that's the equation of a circle. Now, in order to find the equation of a circle, and notice that the equation of a circle has two variables in it, an x and a y. See the x and y variables? It kind of makes sense because I'm looking at a coordinate plane. And I have in the coordinate plane, don't I have x and y coordinates to deal with? Mm-hmm. Okay. So if I'm going to find the equation of a circle, I need two pieces of information. That's all you need, just two pieces of information. I need to know these two things. I need to know the center of the circle, and I also need to know the radius, the length of the radius. So these are the two things that I only need to write the equation of a circle, of that circle that's graphed. That's all I need. You got to remember, though, that the center of a circle is represented with what letters here? HK. That's how it's represented, HK. Now, notice the formula says x minus h, y minus k. It doesn't say x plus h, y plus k, so you got to leave it as it is as you do this. So remember, the center is hk. So if I'm going to find a center, or if I'm going to use this formula, I got to know what h and k are. And then what letter represents the radius? R. So those are the three things I've got to find. So if I go to that first circle, remember, what two pieces of information do I need to find the equation of the circle? The center and the radius. Do I know the center? Yes. I mean, you can't see it here, but you see it on your paper. What is it? 4, 3. So in number one, the center is 4, 3, which means that 4 represents which letter? H. And K, I'm sorry, 3 represents K. All right, so finding the center is easy. It's the point right in the middle of the circle, right in the center of the circle. Now let's talk about the radius. Now, if the graph of the circle is given, it's going to be easy enough to where, see the end here will lie on a grid where it will be an integer. So it's not going to be like this, where you have to estimate. So it'll be easy like that. So it will lie. See where the furthest point on the right is here, and you represent this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 9, 3, I think. So you didn't estimate. It's 9, 3, right? Okay, now let's talk about the radius. The radius is the length from the segment. In this case, you're finding the length from the center to a what? A point on the circle. And how many radii does a circle have? An infinite number, right? So y'all agree that this right here that I just drew, that's the radius. Oh, that's one of the radius. Yes. How many radii are there? But that's not the one you're going to use to determine the length. Because you can't look at that and tell me that length is, can you? If you can, you're pretty good. That's not the one you're going to use. Which radius are you going to use to help you determine the length? Say again? Okay, so the one that's either going which way? Left or right? Left horizontal or what? Vertical. So if I go horizontal from that center, let's say here, isn't that still the radius? Yeah. What is that length? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You just count the units. There's no way you could have told me this is 5 right here. Or you could have done this one. Count the units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. R going straight up, right? Vertical. Count the units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. R vertical down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it doesn't matter which one you use. Just make sure it's always easier. Actually, the only way you can do this is to go horizontally or vertically from the center. So that's how you find the length of the radius when the graph is given. Now for us, it will be easy enough to figure it out like this. So what's the radius, the length of the radius? What's the length of the radius? 5. Length of the radius is 5, so R is 5. All right, so we got that. And then once you do that, the rest, unless you haven't been doing anything in all the years you've been in school, the rest is a piece of cake. You just plug into the formula. So I get parentheses x, leave the x, you got to have the x and y because you're writing an equation, minus h, what's h? 4 squared, plus parentheses y minus k, what's k? 3 squared equal r, which is 5. What do I do to that? Square it. Okay, now listen carefully. Don't leave it as 5 squared, because you know what 5 squared is. What's 5 squared? 25. So your answer will be this. X minus 4 squared plus y minus 3, that's a 3, squared equals what? 25. Don't follow that out. See that x minus 4? Don't do x minus 4 times x minus 4, because you want the equation written in what form? Standard form. So is that equation written in standard form? Yes. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, and r squared 25. Okay? All right, let's look at the other circle. So look at the other circle, and you tell me what the center is. The circle. The center. Negative, okay, the order matters when you say an ordered pair. 2, negative 5. X goes first. So this center is 2 comma negative 5, right? Don't say negative 5, 2. Negative 5, 2 is in a different quadrant. So I found my center. So number 2, I found my center. And all I need to do now is find the length of the radius. So I think you have enough information to be able to do that now. What's the length of the radius? 3. I'm going to go straight up from the center. 1, 2, 3. Or I can go straight down. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So the radius is 3. And then all you do is just plug in to your formula. So remember, your formula was this. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Okay? All right, now, so all I'm doing is just plugging in just like I did. Try not to do too much in your head if you're going to tend to mess up here. Here's what I would do. I would actually say x minus h, what's h? 2. What do I do to that? Square it. Plus y minus k, what's k? Negative 5. What do I do to that? Square it. Equal r, which is what? What do I do to that? Square it. All right. Now, a couple of things I got to tell you. Remember, first thing is that you cannot leave that 3 squared. You got to write it as what? 9. Secondly, you see this y minus a negative 5? All of you know that that's the same thing as what? Y plus 5. I expect you to remember that. All right, so that's something you have to remember. That's one of the reasons why when you went through your years, you learned that y minus a negative 5 means y plus 5. So you can write things in a better way. So leave it as y plus 5. So your answer then will be x minus 2 squared plus y what? Plus 5 squared equal 9. That's your answer. Okay? All right. So that was number 2. So the circle's given, it's not that bad because the center will be visible and you can easily determine the length of the radius. Look at number 2. So I'm going to ask you about number 2. I guess when I put this as number 2, it really wasn't numbered here. So I could just say this is A and this is what? B. So I'll call this B. So 1A, this will be 1A, 1B. All right, let's look at number 2. So I'm going to ask you this. It says, write the standard form of the equation of the circles. That's x minus h squared plus, tell it with me, y minus k squared equal r squared. Okay? In order to use the equation of a circle, what must I know?
The center
and the
radius.
Well, isn't 2a and b easy? Well, 2a?
Yeah.
Now 2b you may say, well, that's fair, we're killing me. But isn't that easy?
Yeah.
It's the same thing as 1a and b, isn't it? In order to write equation of a circle, what is it you got to know?
Center and radius.
The center and the
Radius.
radius. And I do. So in 2a, that's easy. So in 2a, you're told the center is negative 3, 2. So that means h is what? Negative 3, and k is 2. And you're told the radius is, the length of the radius is 3. And all you do is just plug into the formula. So I get x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equal r squared. And you just got to remember from our discussion how it's supposed to be written. All right, so I get x minus h. What's h? Negative 3. What do I do to that? Squared. Plus y minus 2 squared equal 3 squared. So that's where we're at. Okay, you know that that's not how I'm supposed to write it. So in the blank, what is the correct way, if you want full credit, what is the correct way of writing this? X plus 3, good, squared, plus y minus 2 squared equal 9. Very good. All right. Let's get B. Now, y'all know we got 9 because this says 3 times 3 squared means 3 times 3, right? Okay. Just checking. All right, 2B. What's the center in 2B? Negative 2, negative 4. Okay. What's the radius, the length of the radius? Square root of 6. Okay, no big deal. Square root of 6. It's an irrational number. It's not a rational number like the other two are. What's h? What's k? Negative 4, right? All right, so all you do is plug into the formula. So my formula is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Yes.
For the one you put in the square,
Uh-huh.
you just did the minus and the negative 3. That's how you made it the positive.
Because remember, it says x minus h, right? Okay, what is h in this case? Negative 3. So remember this. X minus the negative 3 means the same thing as x plus 3. You add, you remember you gotta change subtraction to addition, which means you add the opposite. The opposite of a negative 3 is a positive 3. Okay? All right. Yeah, that was a good question because some students still have a little difficulty with this, even trig students, even calculus students. So, but as you go through, you need to remedy those issues you have in your mind, and you're still going to have them. We all have them. All right, so I get x minus h. What's h? Negative 2. What do I do that? Squared. Plus y minus k. What's k? Negative 4. What do I do that? Equal. All right, now r. What's r? Square root of 6. What do I do to that? Square it. Okay. All right. Now let's now the stuff on the left side, those expressions on the left side, I think all of you now, even with that question, you should now have it. That this on the left side should now be written as what?
X plus 2.
Squared plus y plus 4 squared equal. All right. Now let's talk about yes.
But was he gonna want us to write it the first way and then that way?
No. You can go from here to the answer because I know that many of you know that in your mind you're saying x minus a negative 2 is x plus 2, right? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. There's certain things I'm picky about because you're skipping too much. I'm like, is that person really doing it or is that, Yep. All right. Okay. Square root of 6 squared. Square root of 6 squared. What does that mean, square root of 6 squared?
I don't see.
What does 3 squared mean? Don't say 9. What does 3 squared mean? 3 times 3. What does square root of 6 squared mean? The square root of 6 times the square root of 6. What was the square root of 6 times the square root of 6? Which is just 6, right? So if I had the square root of, and some of you went ahead and you said square root of 36, which is 6, which is true, right? Because 6 times 6 is 36, which is a perfect square. But then, what if you had this? The square root of, what if you had this? 2.76 square root squared. No calculator.
2.7.
Yes, very good. The square root of a number times the square root of itself is just that number.
Is that because it cancels itself?
Huh?
Is that because the square cancels the square root?
Okay, so remember when we talked about solving a radical equation? At the beginning of class, we looked at this, if I can find it real quick. So we looked at this right here, and we saw, and we had the discussion that the square root and the square root undo each other, right? Okay. So if you look at this, in that right here, or this, isn't that the same thing?
Yeah.
So it's just 2.76. So yes. So good question. Good observation. Okay.
That's easier to remember.
Yeah, it's just like when we're doing solving the square root equations. The square and the square root are inverse operations. The square and the square root inverse operations, just left with 6, right? Okay. And there's your answer right here. That's all you do. Okay, so that's 2B. Okay, now let's look at 3. So sometimes the equation of a circle will be given. So like 3a. X minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared equal 25. So that's the equation of a circle. You've got to recognize, remember we're dealing with all kinds of equations, right?
Yes.
You know what a quadratic equation looks like. You know what an absolute value equation looks like. You know what an absolute, I already said absolute value. A radical equation looks like, and now you know what a circle, the equation of a circle looks like. So it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So you recognize that's the equation of a circle. And it's in that nice form here. It's in that nice form, which is very comparable to this. And you can easily, if you remember some things we just talked about, you can easily tell me the center of that circle and the radius. First of all, let's talk about the radius. What's the radius? 5. Radius is 5, because right here, that number is r squared, right? Well, in 25, 5 squared, so it's r. 5. Or you can just take the square root of that number. What's the square root of 25? 5. So we know that the radius is 5 because this right here, if I rewrite it like this, y'all agree that 25 is 5 squared?
Yeah.
Okay. So I found the length of the radius. Now I got to find the center. Now, students always, some of them always mess up with this because they don't know whether it's -2 because they see -2 and +3. You gotta remember what the equation of the circle looks like. What's the equation of the circle? It is x minus h. Remember earlier I said don't think of this as x plus h. It's what? X minus h. So what you need to do is take the time and do what I'm about to do. So remember it's got to look like x minus h and then y minus, right? So here's what I would do. So this already is written as x minus. Y'all agree? All right, so I'm going to rewrite it as x minus 2 squared plus, and then this. Based on our discussion earlier, you know that y plus 3 is the same thing as saying y minus a -3. So write that. And then that's equal to 5 squared. Y'all agree? All right. So now, look at your formula. X minus h. What's h in this case? 2. Y minus k. What's k in this case? -3. And what's r? 5. So that's h, that's k, and that's r. All right. So when you're given the equation of a circle and you will find the center, you really need to think about it like this: x minus h, y minus k, and then r squared. So what's the center? 2, -3. And what's the radius? 5. So that's your answer. Now, on the, on a test, something like that would probably be multiple choice, and so you would just look at that and come up with the answer. Because it's really no work, right? I mean, you're given this equation, and you know that the formula's up there. So it's x minus h, h is 2. And then we all know from previous experiences that y plus 3 is the same as y minus a -3, so there's no work like we had to do with some of the others. So the same thing for b. You could tell me what the center and the radius is for b without doing what I just did. But if you need to, you do it. So it's x plus 4 squared plus y plus 5 squared equal 16. What's the center? -4, -5. Because x plus 4 means the same thing as saying x minus a -4. Because it's got to be written as x minus h, y minus k. So y plus 5 means the same thing as saying y minus a -5. So if you got to write it out, you write it out. So you would say that's x minus a -4 squared plus y minus a -5 squared equal 4 squared. So this is your h, this is your k. So h is -4, k is -5, and your radius is 4. So your center then is -4, comma, -5, and your radius is 4. Okay? All it is knowing what the formula looks like. That's all it is. Just knowing what it looks like. Okay, so then let's look at this now. So all of you should be able to tell me the center for the next one, but most of you should be able to tell me the radius. I said most. X minus 6 squared plus y minus 1 squared equal 8. So all of you can tell me the center. What's the center? In unison, we're in a choir right now. What's the center? 6, 1. All right. 6, 1. Okay, now, what's the radius? Say quick. You can't use a decimal. What's the radius? Square root of 8. I was hoping some of you would not say, 4. Because some of you think that 4 squared is still 8. 4 squared is not 8. What's 4 squared? 16. That was a little bit harder to do, right? The others were easier, the other two we did, because that number there was a perfect square. That's why. Remember 25? 25 is a perfect square. What was the other number? The one next after that is 36? 36 is a perfect square. But is 8 a perfect square? No, it's not a perfect square. But remember, when we talked about this right here, let's see, this right here, 25, and so we wrote it as 5 squared, but we also said, well, I didn't write it, but we also said, I do remember saying this, that you can just say the square root of what? 25. So the radius will be the square root of 25, which is what? 5. Here, since that's a perfect square, it was easy to see this, right? So, but you could have said the radius is the square root of 16, which is 4. And it kind of makes sense. Now listen carefully. It kind of makes sense. It's r is the square root because this is r squared, right? Okay, so look, r squared. Well, r squared is equal to what number here? 25. Well, how do you get r by itself? You take the square root of both sides. And so when you take the square root of both sides, oh, and by the way, don't do the plus or minus here. Because remember, you take the square root of both sides, do that plus or minus. That was on one of the worksheets. But you know that here because the radius is distance. And distance is always and so what's the square root of 25? 5. So when I get to this one, oh here, when I get to this one, see this right here, that 8 is r squared, isn't it? Does that represent r squared?
Yes.
And so how to get r by itself?
Square both sides.
Not square both sides. What's the opposite of squaring? Square root. Take the square root of both sides. So I'm taking the square root of both sides. And so these undo each other, so you get r equals the square root of 8, and then you simplify that. So what perfect square goes into 8? 4. So I get the square root of 4 times square root of 2, so it's 2 square root of 2. So there's your radius. 2 square root of 2 simplified. So if you said the square root of 8 and you left it like that, I mean, it's not correct. It's just I mean, it's not correct. It's still correct, but you didn't go further with it. So you get some points. Yes. How do what? Because you got to remember your formula is x minus h. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So when I look at that, x minus 6, so that h is the 6. Y minus k, y minus 1, that k is the what? The 1. Okay? Yes?
Does it make sense just to take the opposite?
But that's you're memorizing something. You're not trying, when you do that, you're not trying to make a connection with the formula. So when you tend to do things like that, because there are other things that are going to occur, you say, well, I'm just going to remember to do this, remember to do this, remember to do this, and then it all gets confused. Yeah. So no, that's why I don't do that way. I need to make a connection between what you have and the formula. Because you say, well, I'm going to take the opposite, then we're going to do something else, and you say take the opposite, and you don't take the opposite for that one. Okay? So don't try and memorize something without making a connection to an understanding of it. All right, D. Okay, now D is going to get some of you. Both places. All right. Okay, so they're both going to be difficult for some of you, finding the center and then finding the radius. Because it looks different than the others, right? Kind of looks different than the others that we've done. But I think you all now have the capability of finding the length of the radius. What's the length of the radius now? All of you can tell me. Square root of 10. Length of the radius, square root of 10. Because then that 10 squared, remember the formula, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals what? R squared. So isn't r squared equal to 10? So if r squared equals 10, then what is r? Square root of both sides. Square root of 10. Can I simplify the square root of 10? No. So that's my radius. The radius is square root of 10. Okay, now let's talk about the center. All right, so see that x squared? Based on what you see, just out of curiosity, what do you think the center is? You got to give me an x and a y coordinate for the center. What's x? 0, 3. Okay. So some of you are thinking that the center. So I found the radius, and then some of you are thinking that the center is 0, 3. Anybody else? You gotta have an x, you gotta have a y for the center. You can't just say, well, it's just 3. He's correct. It is 0, 3. Because see that x squared? Okay. Well, do y'all agree? And y'all will. Do y'all agree that x squared means the same thing as x minus 0 squared?
Yeah.
Hey, there you go. What's h?
So just have to agree.
0. So remember, that you make a connection between what we have in the formula. Well, I have an x squared. I want to make it look like that formula, x minus h squared, right? Well, I got to write it like that then to make that connection. So you see, I need to make this look like this. So I need to make that x squared look like something in parentheses squared. Well, I know that 4 means the same thing as 4 plus 0. I know that 5 means the same thing as 5 plus 0, 5 minus 0. So I know that x also means what? The same thing as either x plus 0 or what? X minus 0. But which one do I want to use? X minus, because of the form, x minus h. So do y'all agree that x squared then, that this whole thing right here, I can write as x minus 0 squared plus y minus 3 squared equal 10. So what's h and k? 0, 3. 0, 3. Don't make the mistake in saying 0, negative 3 when you have that formula right by you. So it's x minus h, y minus k. So the center, see, this is your h, and this is your k. All right? Let's look at E. All right, based on what we talked about, and the person that got the answer earlier, just kind of keep quiet for right now. All of you can tell me the radius, the length of the radius. In unison, 7. Square root of 49, 7. Right? So 7 though, right? So the radius is 7. Okay, now almost all of you can tell me the center. 0, 0. It's the origin. The center is the origin. 0, 0 is the origin. But just say 0, 0. So the center is 0, 0, because I can write this as x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equal 49, right? And so there's your h, and there's your k. So the center is 0, 0. That's your center. Okay? So make it look like the formula. It doesn't look like the formula, make it look like the formula. Then you can easily determine h and k. Now, remember how most of you are able to tell me the answer? Did you have to write it like this? No. You can go from here, there's no work that's needed. You can go from there to the center. But if you need to write it like this, then you write it like this. Okay? All right, now you see number 4, it says graph. So let's go ahead and graph 3A, 3B, and 3E. 3A, 3B, and at the bottom, see what it says that? What now? Okay, I lost. Oh, here it is. Okay, see at the bottom, it says graph 3A, 3B, and 3E.
Correct.
All right, so let's go to the next page. Right here. So let's talk about 3A. To graph a circle, I need to know two things: its center and the length of the radius. All right, graphing is easy. I'm just going to do a couple. What's the center in 3A? Is it 3 I'm looking for? What was the center? 2, -3. And what's the radius? 5. All right. So first thing you do is you label the center. You plot the center. So the center is in what quadrant? 4. So you go to the right, 3 down, right? So right here. So there's my center. Right here. There's the center. Now, remember our discussion earlier when you were given the graph and you were trying to find the radius? I said go to the right, left, up, or down. Okay, that's the next thing you're going to do. So to do the best you can with drawing the circle, you need 4 points on the circle. So use the length of the radius. Go, what was it? 5. Go 5 units to the right, 5 units to the left, 5 units up, 5 units down, and then connect the points the best you can in circular motion. So you just go 5 units to the right, because that's length of the radius. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's one of my points in the circle. You go 5 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's the other point. Because remember, the center is in the middle of the circle, right? Okay. And 5 is the length of the radius. So 5 units down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 5 units up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then just do the best you can with doing the circle. Make it curved, though. Don't do triangles. Make it look like a curve. Do the best you can. All right? Do the best you can with drawing a circle. So that's all you do. The first thing you do is plot the center, and then you use the radius, and you go right, left, up, and down. Because you want those 4 points to be able to draw a circle that's not too bad looking. Okay, so the other one was 3B. So 3B, what was the center? -4, -5. And what was the radius? 4. Okay, the radius is 4. So what do I plot first? The center. So -4, -5 is in the third quadrant. So that's back here. -4, -5. And from that center, I'm going to use the radius, the length of the radius, to help me graph the circle. So I'm going to go 5 units up, 5 units down. I'm sorry, 4 units up, 4 units down, 4 units to the right, 4 units to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and then just draw your circle. Okay? Any questions? All right, and then finally, the other one was 3E. 3E. What's this? What for 3E? Go back and look at what the center. What was it? So the origin, right? Y'all agree that 0, 0 is the origin? Okay, so the center is 0, 0. Remember, the origin is where the x and the y-axis intersect. And what was the length of the radius? 7. So here's my center at the origin, right here. And then I'm going to go 7 units right, 7 units left, 7 units up, and 7 units down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you just connect your dots, do the best you can. Now remember, your circle doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously mine's not, but if you draw, I'm telling you this now, if you draw segments, I'm going to put this on social media. Because these are not segments, these are curves, right?
You like making fun of us, don't
Mm-hmm. Especially since you know that a circle looks like that and you're drawing a triangle.
What if it looks like an ice cream cone?
Alright, that's the thing, we're drawing a circle. Or a diamond, I guess. I said a triangle. Yeah, one of those. All right. Now you may say, well, why didn't we graph the other one? 3C, let's say. Well, you would have had to estimate the length. Because I think that 3C, it was square root of 8. And so the square root of 8, someone said earlier when I asked you what was the length of the radius, someone said 2 point something. And it is, it's practically 2 point something. But you've had to approximate, that's why I didn't have to do that one. You understand why I didn't ask you to do the 3C? Okay, because you would have had to approximate the radius. Okay, so